My name is Arthur Graham. I am 75 years old. Today, I have decided to have a conversation that I have not been ready for many years. I need to confess something that I kept silent about at the funeral and did not even dare to say to myself. It is something deeply personal, something that in an instant turned my understanding of love and human relationships upside down. I want you to hear me now, because my bitter experience can save you from the silent pain that can haunt a person for decades, giving them no peace even in their old age. My wife Eleanor and I lived in a quiet, ivy-covered house in the suburbs of London for 45 long years. Think about it. That's much longer than many of you have been walking this earth. And for most of that time, I was blissfully confident that we had a model marriage. You know, a classic British union. Stable, respected by neighbors without any loud scandals. We were the kind of couple people say, they're made for each other. We were a fortress. But here's the frightening truth that no wedding consultant will ever tell you. You can share an umbrella in the pouring rain for 40 years, sleep in the same bed, raise children, and still remain complete strangers in the most intimate corners of your soul. Eleanor left me 6 years ago. It was a ridiculous, monstrous car accident on a rainy evening in Greenwich. One slippery turn, the blinding light of an oncoming van's headlights, and the life we had built brick by brick was shattered. In those few minutes as I sat by her bed in intensive care, holding her weakening hand, she looked at me as if she were seeing me for the first time. And she whispered words that now echo in my head every morning when I wake up in an empty house. She said, "Arthur, look at us. We spent so many precious years just being together instead of really being close." I admit, at that moment, her words provoked protest and resentment in me. I felt a defensive reaction boiling up inside me. How could she say that? Weren't we happy? We hardly ever argued. We planned vacations together. We built our cozy world in Greenwich. But that was the trap. We were too comfortable. Comfort became our shared painkiller, behind which we hid the absence of a real emotional connection. We created a beautiful form, but inside it was empty. Let me explain with examples that I only realized now when it was too late. For many years, Eleanor tried to reach me through small gestures, through insignificant suggestions, which I, in my eternal busyness and desire for order, simply brushed off like annoying flies. Even those fleeting impulses that seemed like mere trifles to me. She would suggest hopefully, "Arthur, why don't we sign up for Latin dance classes in our community?" Or, "Maybe we could get away to the Brighton coast this weekend, just to listen to the sound of the waves." She would often catch my gaze in the twilight and quietly ask, "What are you sad about right now? Share it with me." And I always had a set of rational arguments ready as to why her ideas were a bad idea. Exhausted after a shift at the office. Too many household chores piled up. Too extravagant for our budget this month. Silly and ridiculous at our respectable age. I never set out to cause her pain, God knows. I was simply under the dangerous delusion that we had infinity in reserve. I sincerely believed that these tiny sparks of attention were insignificant in the grand scheme of life. I thought that the unshakable foundations, my fidelity, stable income, my reputation as a reliable husband, were more than enough for happiness. But I was catastrophically wrong. You see, I believed that love was manifested in monumental acts. Protection in times of turmoil, paying the bills, physical presence in the same room. These are certainly the pillars of marriage. But I didn't realize that true intimacy breathes in the insignificant, almost invisible little things. In the way your hands touch at breakfast, in aimless wanderings through foggy London squares, in the ability to listen. Listening with all your heart when your woman confides in you the little bits and pieces that make up her everyday life. I stopped being that kind of listener. It didn't happen overnight. The alienation grew alarmingly smoothly layer by layer. The gap widened so imperceptibly that I missed the moment when we began to drift apart. One dismissive gesture, with which I brushed aside her feelings, led to another. One curt "not today, I'm exhausted" turned into 1,000 refusals. One "we'll do it some other time" inevitably turned into never. And Eleanor. She simply accepted the rules of this game. Being a wise and gentle woman, she adapted to the emotional coldness that I slowly brought into our home. She stopped inviting me to dance, abandoned thoughts of shared hobbies, and ceased all attempts to draw me into heartfelt confessions. She built her own autonomous world. She made her own friends, found personal interests, and created a separate orbit within our shared walls. We became impeccably polite neighbors who only formally shared a last name and a bed. We were courteous to each other, but at our core, each of us remained hopelessly lonely. I was blind to this, or more likely, I lulled myself into thinking that this was a natural evolution of feelings. That in a long-term marriage, passion always gives way to habit, and that's the way it should be. That domestic comfort is the crowning glory of a relationship. But now, in the void, I realized that comfort is just a respectable mask for spiritual laziness and indifference. When that fateful van caught up with her in Greenwich and Eleanor ended up in a hospital bed, the veil fell from my eyes. Suddenly, our story had a cruel deadline. All those grand plans that I had arrogantly put off until retirement turned out to have a fatally short shelf life. In those last hours, while she was still conscious, we spoke with a candor we hadn't known in the last 20 years. She opened up abysses to me that I had no idea existed, dreams she had buried under the weight of my tomorrows, resentments she had silently ground down for decades, moments when she felt like a complete ghost in our own home. One night, just 3 days before she left, she whispered to me about her youthful dream, a trip to the Norwegian fjords. Her grandfather had once sailed there on merchant ships and described those harsh lands with enthusiasm. She dreamed of seeing the setting sun sinking into the cold water, of breathing in the air that smelled of glaciers. She mentioned this dozens of times over the 4 decades of our life together. And each time I found a compelling argument for refusal. Too tiring, the wrong season, let's postpone it until better times. And now, those better times had been burned up in the flames of the accident. She didn't express anger when she said this, weakening before my eyes. And this silent humility tormented my soul more than any curse. She looked infinitely sad, like someone who had long ago resigned herself to the fact that I would never be the comrade she longed for. In despair, I squeezed her hand and asked, "Eleanor, my love, why didn't you demand it? Why didn't you insist?" And do you know what she whispered to me before closing her eyes forever? "Arthur, I never wanted to force you to do something your heart wasn't in. I just hoped all my life that you would want to share this world with me." Those words crushed me completely because they contained a merciless truth. She didn't want me to take her to the Norwegian fjords out of a dry sense of duty or just to tick it off my list of family obligations. Eleanor desperately needed me to be enthusiastic about the idea myself, to sincerely share her excitement. It was vitally important for her to feel that I cared, simply because it was important to her. And I couldn't even give her that little. Listen to me carefully, and I hope you really understand every word, because this knowledge came to me at the cost of the life of someone very close to me. The most terrible threat to your union is not a casual affair, not fierce scandals, and not even some kind of theatrical betrayal. The most dangerous enemy is emotional deafness. It is the habit of perceiving the person next to you as a familiar detail of the interior, as something unchanging and self-evident. It is a slow, silent corrosion of the soul. True intimacy begins to die the moment you stop making an effort. When you stop asking questions, presuming that you already know all the answers in this well-read book. When you stop investing energy, firmly believing that your partner will not go anywhere and will always be there for you. You stop protecting your relationship because you think you have decades of calm harbor ahead of you. But one day you open your eyes and realize that a complete stranger is sleeping next to you. Or, even worse, their place is empty, and you no longer have a single chance to truly know who has been living with you all this time. After Eleanor's death, I found in her secret drawer not just a diary, but a herbarium album that she had kept for decades. Between the dry pages were movie tickets for films I never went to see, dried flowers from walks we never took, and magazine clippings about that very Norway. But the most painful discovery was her notes in the margins of these empty pages. She described days that never happened. There were whole paragraphs about how we could have laughed if I had agreed to go to that dance. About what fish we would have eaten in a small cafe on the shore of the fjord if I hadn't said I was too busy. Reading this, I realized that I had lived 40 years with the ghost of a woman whom I myself had prevented from becoming real. She cried out about her loneliness through this silent creativity. She described what it was like to feel your voice drowning in a vacuum. About those evenings when I was physically in the room but emotionally on the other side of the galaxy, buried in a newspaper or a work report. About the times when my phone screen interested me more than her timid attempt to share her fears. But the most painful thing was the list at the end of the album. 100 Things Arthur Didn't Notice. Number 48 was, "Today I cried in the kitchen and he came in, took an apple and asked what we were having for dinner." Number 92. "I wore the blue dress he used to love, and he asked why I was taking so long to get ready to go to the store. I was there. We shared the same pillow every night, but God knows, in those years I was as if in suspended animation. And it is this knowledge that now burns me from within. There was no malice in my actions. I didn't want to be cruel. I just let comfort blind me. I simply succumbed to destructive complacency. I naively believed that simply being under the same roof was enough to consider myself a good husband. I believed that as long as I provided a decent life and brought home a salary, my duty was fulfilled. It seemed to me that not causing obvious harm was the same as creating happiness. But the truth is that intimacy is not destroyed by a single powerful blow. It slowly evaporates from 1,000 small instances of neglect. If you are currently bound by obligations to another person, I implore you to stop and ask yourself a few honest questions. When was the last time you had a truly deep conversation with your partner? Not about everyday logistics, payment schedules, or what to have for dinner. A real conversation about secret dreams, hidden fears, or crazy ideas. When was the last time you did something just to see the spark of joy in their eyes? Not because it was a special date or anniversary, but just because. When was the last time you looked at them, really looked into their face, and felt a piercing gratitude that they still light up your life with their presence? If you can't recall such moments, then you are already making the same fatal mistake I did. Your partner will not be with you forever. I know these words are bitter, but it is an inevitable truth. Sooner or later, one of you will cross the line first. And when that moment comes, you won't have the slightest chance to rewrite the script. You won't be able to go back to the past, and you won't start those conversations that you've been putting off for years. You won't go on those trips that you always considered inappropriate. You won't make those important confessions that you thought they already knew. Eleanor and I had 45 years together, and I realized with horror that I spent at least half of that time simply enjoying the comfort instead of being involved in her life. I spent my energy trying to be right in arguments instead of trying to be closer to her heart. I was just physically present instead of being spiritually present. Don't repeat my path. Love is not a feeling that you can experience once and then stop working on. Love is daily work, manifested in tiny gestures and big decisions. It is a conscious choice to maintain a sincere curiosity about your partner even after 40 years of breakfasts together. It is a willingness to try something unfamiliar together, even if it disrupts your usual routine. It is the courage to engage in difficult, uncomfortable conversations when it would be easier to remain silent. It is a sincere concern for what is valuable to them, not out of a sense of duty, but because the soul of your loved one is more important to you than anything else in the world. After Eleanor passed away, those around me rushed to comfort me, insisting on what an exemplary and devoted husband I had been until the very end. They meant well, but every word they said rang hollow to me. I was not a worthy husband. I was merely a satisfactory companion, one who simply fulfilled the formal terms of the contract without question. I did not break my vows, I did not allow myself to be mean, I did not desert my family, but that is a damn low bar. It is merely the foundation, not the building itself.
He always had such a warm
Being a true
smile.
partner means creating a temple of spiritual warmth every minute of every day. It means consciously choosing vulnerability, maintaining an inquisitive curiosity about the inner world of the other, investing your energy, and putting your mental connection on a pedestal of priorities. Even when you are exhausted, when you are burdened with worries or toxic stress. I ignored it, and now my lot is to live with unrelenting remorse from the realization that I possessed a rare diamond, but allowed it to turn to dust because of banal, everyday callousness. 6 years have passed, but my thoughts still return to those Norwegian fjords, to the mountains she so wanted to see. I replay in my head, to the point of exhaustion, how little it would have taken for me to simply breathe out that short yes. A week from my calendar, a handful of savings, that's all it would have cost. But for her heart, it would have been the discovery of a whole world. I remember those clay modeling classes she invited me to, those dance evenings in Greenwich, those long, agonizing attempts to talk heart to heart. I see all those tiny threads with which she tried to sew together our crumbling unity, and I remember every dry "not today," "I don't have the strength," or "let's do it some other time." That elusive "another time" never materialized. Realize this, it never comes for those who are used to waiting. If you cherish someone, if you have entrusted your fate to another person, don't wait for the right moment to prove that they mean everything to you. Don't feed yourself with the hope that they understand their importance without words. Don't let them become a familiar background to your life. Explore their innermost desires. Become an avid listener to their stories. Agree to their crazy ideas even if they seem alien to you, simply because the strength of your union should be your most passionate pursuit. Be present. Be attentive. Act consciously, because one day, you might find yourself in my empty place. Sitting in silence, looking at old photos, flipping through someone else's notes, and suddenly realizing that you had the whole palette of happiness in your hands, but you didn't think it was worth noticing until the paint had completely dried. I am pouring my heart out to you not to burden you with guilt. I am saying this because you have a great advantage. You still have time. Your loved one is still here, within arm's reach. You still have the power to start that conversation, take that crazy trip, and create a memory that will keep you from freezing in your old age. Do it right now while the silence in your home is not yet eternal. Become eternal. On my antique oak table, right in front of my eyes, stands an old silver frame. Inside it is a photograph of my Eleanor, taken during our honeymoon in the Lake District, back in July 1969. She looks like a young girl in it, laughing heartily, her head thrown back, squinting in the dazzling summer sun. Her hair, still thick and dark at the time, is blowing wildly in the lake breeze. Looking at this photo, I see a woman who is overflowing with a thirst for life, grand plans, and some incredible, bright hope for our future together. And now, in the silence of an empty house, I stare at her and feel my throat tighten. She remained beautiful and kind until her last breath, but her eyes held that quiet, unquenchable sadness that I myself had systematically instilled in her over decades of my respectable numbness. Eleanor was right, and this realization is my cross to bear. We wasted precious years fighting for the right to be right in empty arguments, instead of simply being inseparable. We built a life, but forgot to build intimacy. I beg you, don't waste your time as wastefully and foolishly as I did. Love the people who share your roof and your bread. Do it actively, passionately, and purposefully, while your heart is still beating and you still have a voice to say it. You are on the Time Left channel. Here, people who have been tempered by long, and sometimes bitter experience share their innermost thoughts and life lessons so that your tomorrow will be brighter than our yesterday. If this story has touched the hidden strings of your soul and made you think about something, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. This will help these important words find their way to other hearts. If my story resonated with you, don't leave silently. Leave a comment, tell your story, or just give it a like. Your participation helps us continue this important dialogue between generations.